everyone. I'm Steve VanWagenen, Regional Director at KLAS, and it's my pleasure to be with you. It's been great to associate with you and to learn from you, and now hopefully I can share a few insights that will be helpful to you and your organization. We've had discussions today that have talked about digital transformation, that have talked about being prepared and ready for the future, helping clinicians have a great experience, saving time, being more efficient. There's a lot of things that have been talked about today. And I hope that as you think about that and make decisions in your organization, leading your organizations through that change that's going to happen, that you remember a couple things. There's a few things I hope for you. One is that I hope that you'll realize what a great community of healthcare providers you associate with that are here and in your communities, and that there's a wealth of information and experience, and that you take time to learn from others' experiences, the successes as well as failures that they've had, and that you'll be courageous in sharing your own, even the failure side of things, because we all learn better from those experiences. So I want to share some insights today about KLAS and the research we do, and give you an opportunity to learn some things that we've heard from you and your peers. So the purpose of KLAS is really to help you and the rest of the industry gain insights, to push the industry forward, to gather information that can help us make informed decisions. We do that by talking to you about the vendors that you work with, and I want to take just a minute to express appreciation for each of you that has taken time with KLAS to share your perspective and your experience related to your work with InterSystems or any of the other vendors that you work with. We also interview providers about competitive solutions, and we're pushing and encouraging all of the vendors in the market to be their very best and ultimately deliver great content, great solutions, and service back to you. We're also taking time to interview clinicians about their EHR experience and try and improve that experience for them as well. So the reason we do all of that is because we truly believe that by measuring performance, measuring the solutions and comparing them one to another, that we can truly have an impact on delivering care. So for the last 25 plus years, KLAS has been gathering research, hearing the voice of the providers in the industry all around the world. We're doing thousands of interviews every year, 20,000 plus a year from thousands of organizations on hundreds of products. And all of that combines to provide some great insights that are anonymized and aggregated, but provide insight back to the vendors to help them be better, and insights for you to help you make the decisions that you're trying to make. So when we're visiting with you, we're asking a variety of questions about the product, about implementation, the training that you've received, the service that you receive on an ongoing basis. We're also asking questions about the priorities that you have. What are you planning on investing in the next 12 to 18 months? And geographically, how is that different? So for example, in Asia recently, some of the interviews that we've had have interviewees have talked about AI. We've talked about that a lot today. EHRs, digitization, IT and infrastructure, and cybersecurity. That is very helpful to KLAS to know how we spend our time and our resources, or where we invest our research time to help you get the insights you need. One of my favorite parts of the job at KLAS is having opportunities to share back. And so first of all, I want to thank InterSystems for the opportunity to be here so that we can share a few insights that we've learned. On the board there, the screen there are a lot of different reports that have recently published. There's even a couple newer ones about Asia Oceania PACS systems and EHR systems. And as we work with healthcare providers, I want you to understand that we freely share back. As we interview you and you share feedback with KLAS, we want you to have insights. And so as we share some insights today, hopefully there are some that would be of help to you. You let us know what's meaningful to you, and we're happy to share that information. But I want to focus on some specific insights today that we learned from what we call the ARCH Collaborative. So the Arch Collaborative is a body of research that's been growing over the last 8 years. It comes from research feedback from over 600,000 clinicians that represent over 300 healthcare organizations in 12 different countries. And the main question in all of that research is, what can we do to help clinicians adopt EHRs better and have a higher satisfaction with the EHRs that have already been implemented? How many of you have already asked that same question in your organization? How can we help our clinicians use what we've already invested in? So that's the purpose behind this research. And as we talk to clinicians about their experience, we're asking a variety of questions related to the technology, about ease of use, about the ability that the system provides to help them deliver better patient care. And we combine all of that research into what we refer to as a net EHR experience score, which runs from a negative 100, meaning all the feedback from that organization was negative, to a positive 100, meaning all the feedback was very positive. And as you can imagine, there's provider experiences all over the spectrum. So if you look at this chart here, there's a bunch of little gray lines there. On the bottom, you have the organizations that are reporting the poorest experience on that scale. And the ones at the very top, the highest levels of satisfaction. And you look at that and you wonder, how can all of these organizations have such a different experience with their EHR? And so you might first think, well, it's probably related to the EHR that they've picked. These down here probably picked a bad one, and those at the top picked a good one. But what's interesting is you look at the colored arrows, those are connecting organizations that are using the exact same EHR. So then the question is, well, how can organizations using the same EHR have such vastly different experiences? What's causing that in those organizations? And so as we looked at the data behind that, we realized that about a third of the clinician experience is actually related to the EHR. That there's a shared ownership there. There's part of that experience is related. There's some ownership in the clinician's part, ownership by the organization, and obviously ownership from the vendor as well. So there's a formula that drives clinical or clinician satisfaction. So we have this house of success, maybe as a way to represent the findings there. But as we interview all these clinicians, we find that at the base, at the foundation of clinician satisfaction, there has to be strong infrastructure, system reliability, uptime. The system just has to be able to function as intended. And on top of that, there are 3 pillars of success: education, governance, and personalization. And actually, it was interesting in some of the presentations earlier, I think Wilden actually talked about some of these things in his presentation that drive success. But those are the three pillars that lead to EHR satisfaction. So there's a process involved in getting closer and closer to the ideal state for clinicians. So this is it's a little light to see there, but in the Middle East, represents an organization there. In 2018, they did their first Arch Collaborative measurement, where they went through and invited all their clinicians to give feedback. And their score on that negative 100 to 100 scale was about a 50. Not horrible, but not where they wanted to be. And they took time to discuss the findings of that research. They made some changes in their organization. And 2 years later, they measured again, 2020, made some additional changes, measured again, and then they're getting ready to do another measurement here in 2025. So over time, they continually refined the clinician experience. They kept getting feedback from those organizations. And one of the things that's always challenging is to be brave enough, courageous enough to ask for feedback. And so every participant in the Arch Collaborative is going out there asking their team to give specific feedback about what's working and what's not. So this ongoing process, KLAS recognizes achievement in high clinician satisfaction by giving Pinnacle Awards. So I mentioned there's 300 organizations that have measured to date. 28 of those have received awards for physician satisfaction or nurse satisfaction, that they've achieved high levels in their organizations. And again, it didn't happen on one day, one measurement. But over time, as they work together, they have achieved some great things. So I want to share a few quick findings in the time we have today on what are some things that they did in their organizations that drove satisfaction up. The first is that in over 80% of organizations that we interviewed, there was an indication that there were some technology problems. Remember that little house structure that I just showed a minute ago? That foundation was crumbly. They didn't have a strong foundation of system uptime or reliability. And so that might be the first place to start in your organizations, just to make sure, are there some spots where there's some technology challenges, where clinicians are experiencing some downtime, some unreliability in the system? The next thing we learned is that, that over half of the clinicians that responded indicated misalignment with their IT and operational team. That comes from clinicians not being involved in the process and this decision making. And so the organizations that are achieving high levels of clinician success, clinician satisfaction, are the ones that are including clinicians in the brainstorming, the decision making, the implementation, the training. All the way along, they're involving their clinicians much more than those organizations that are experiencing poor clinician satisfaction. And it's intuitive that that would be the case, right? But a lot of times in the quest to get things done quickly, to make some quick decisions, get things implemented, we don't take enough time up front to involve all the key stakeholders that should be there. The next is the importance of training. A lot of organizations, the initial training, upfront training right after implementation, something that a lot of organizations will do, but then they'll disregard follow-up training. And what we found is over time that even if organizations will do 3 to 5 hours per year of workflow-specific training for clinicians, that the success rate of the satisfaction of those clinicians goes way up. And even in some of those areas there at the bottom, you'll see those that indicated they had received workflow-specific training. They indicate that the higher satisfaction with the functionality, the efficiency of the system, and the ease of use, learning how to take advantage of all the features and functions in the system. Part of that training goes back to what I can't remember, maybe Dimitri or somebody else talked about earlier today, is the importance of personalization rather than customization. There's a real temptation sometimes for an organization to try and customize the system and make it into something specific for the needs of the organization, when in reality sometimes that will eventually tend to backfire on an organization because they can't take advantage of all the features and functions, the things you've been asking your vendors to provide. If you're highly customized, it makes it difficult for you to take advantage of all that new development. In contrast to that, a lot of the organizations that are most successful are helping their clinicians take advantage of the personalization tools that are available within the EHR. On the left there's a whole bunch of different ways that organizations have tried to help their clinicians personalize their experience, taking advantage of templates or filters or macros, order sets, all those different kinds of things. In those 3 to 5 hours that are spent every year with workflow-specific training, help them take advantage of the personalization capabilities within the system rather than doing the customization. And then there's always the temptation, I don't know if in your organization, if you've ever heard the phrase, we'll figure it out later. That should be a red flag. To not just keep moving forward when in reality there might be some challenges that are happening right now. And so what we have found in our research is that in implementations, 40% of implementations go poorly. And 75% of those that go poorly, even a year, 2 years later, the clinicians, the staff is still reporting a poor experience. Some of that comes from those first impressions that are very poor. And some of it is actual that we just can't recover from a poor implementation. So there's some implementation best practices that you can take advantage of. And one of those is to make sure that the stakeholders in that whole process remain aligned. So take time throughout implementation, whether it's initial implementation or going through an upgrade, the training process, to assess how well the different stakeholders are all on the same page. Are the clinicians, the IT, or operational, administrative teams, are they all headed the same direction, and do they all see the same goals in mind? Why this is important is because we're seeing greater and greater reports of clinician burnout. Over the last, since 2019 to 2024, and even this year, those numbers keep going up. And so we need to make sure that the clinicians, the ones that are delivering that patient care for us, that we are doing all that we can to help reduce that burden and retain that staff. One of the things that organizations are doing to help with that was discussed earlier today, is the introduction of ambient speech solutions. Also, some refer to that as AI scribes. You'll notice that there are some organizations that have measured in the Arch Collaborative and then implemented an ambient speech solution and then measured again. And in those cases that we have some specific data showing, even those organizations that are already in the process of trying to improve clinician experience, by adding an ambient speech solution, they're taking that satisfaction even higher. There's a lot of third-party ambient speech solutions. InterSystems has presented, obviously today, some great information about what they're doing related to ambient speech and using AI to further clinician satisfaction. So I encourage you to look at that technology, and there's KLAS research that can help you look at what are some of the benefits and what are providers learning from their early experiences. So throughout your journey of optimizing your EHR and the other solutions that you use, I hope that you'll adopt a constant feedback cycle of taking time to look at where things are today and versus where you want to be, that ideal state that you're looking for, and take time to assess that so that you can take steps in the right direction toward that ideal. As part of that, I've mentioned several resources here. The Arch Collaborative. If any of you and your organizations want to talk to me more about the Arch Collaborative and maybe assessing that in your organization, be happy to do that. Whether you work with KLAS, do an assessment like that on your own, and if you even want to just use our questions, you're welcome to use our questions that we use. But we try and grab that information, that benchmarking, and try and help organizations identify where they can fine-tune their clinician experience. There are a lot of KLAS reports that are available to you. So again, every provider that shares their experience with KLAS, the experience with their current vendors, their current outlook on the industry for the future, all of them of you have access to the KLAS research. So there's some easy lists, some things that we've learned. Happy to share the reports with you. On the screen, there's a QR code. If you would like to scan that, get my contact information, let me know. If you'd like to participate with KLAS and share some feedback, you can identify with that QR code some of the KLAS reports that you would like to receive to help your organization. If you'd like to learn more about any of those things, let us know. We appreciate the time that I've had to be here today and to share some things quickly. But as you go into the future and are making decisions about how to optimize clinician experience in your organization, I hope that you remember that you have a lot of peers that have experiences and take advantage of that data, and that KLAS, we have a lot of research that's available to you, and that with all of that data, you can make some great informed decisions going forward. So thank you.